All right, welcome viewers from all over the world. I'm Dr. JW Ayoub, Central Coast, New South Wales, Australia. There it is. Australia viewers. I live in a beautiful place. I've lived here 60 years and never wanted to ever leave or go anywhere. But thanks for coming in. We're doing the Jehovah Witness cult deception series, and this is episode 21. I'm a theologist. I have been since 1994. So let's get into it. Take a couple of deep breaths. The social trap. When leaving meant losing everything. Now, this is a typical cult matrix institutionalism that they use. And in the previous episode 20, I showed how fear-conditioned members, to avoid investigation before truth, could be even examined. And in this episode, I exposed the next control layer, the social trap, that made leaving feel emotionally catastrophic. This is what they want to do. They want to psychologically make you feel like leaving is going to be socially catastrophic. Brilliantly designed. People underestimate the brilliance of the mastery of evil. How Satan, his mastery is indescribably brilliant, and we've got to expose it. And what these people do, these cult people, the ones that don't want to do the work, they make leaving so consequential, so catastrophically consequential, you psychologically give in. We're going to beat that today. You started questioning the system, but you knew the price would not just be doctrinal, it would be relational. And this is how they get your viewers. The trap becomes strongest when your entire life is inside it. You already felt this pressure. You were not only afraid of being wrong, you're afraid of losing everyone attached to you within that system, because the system 9 times out of 10 is going to win. Very few people wake up in these cult systems because they make it so catastrophic for you to leave. And this is what happens. The social trap forms when relationships identify belonging and emotional security, and they tie them to the organization and your loyalty to it. So once a person realizes that the questioning of the Watchtower Bible tract, whatever it is, society, cult, may result in relational loss, truth seeking becomes emotionally expensive. Now write this down. It becomes so catastrophic to leave that truth seeking becomes too emotionally expensive. You were not merely protecting beliefs, you were protecting your entire psychological and social world. This is how big it is, view. It's not a small thing. Who can remember the Australian Royal Commission just an hour away from here it was? I'll never forget it. It turned the cult upside down. It exposed them. The system becomes psychologically reinforced when belonging depends on agreement. The individual learns that safety, approval, and connection are conditional. Work within the matrix or pay. You connect acceptance to conformity, attachment, dependence, conditioning. You fear relational rejection for disagreement, anxiety, vulnerability is suppressed to the matrix, the cult institutionalization. See, these people are institutionalized. You're in a cult, you're in the Jehovah Witnesses. You're actually psychologically institutionalized. You silence internal conflict to preserve the connection, which leads to compliance, accommodation, submission. Okay? This is how the matrix works. This leads to people protecting relationships even when truth is unsettled internally. Teaching point number 2, viewers. The distortion reframes organizational separation as moral contamination. So now, as your conscience is trying to help you come out, the organization distorts all this and creates what you think is moral contamination, but it's not. And leaving is not treated as just disagreement. It is treated as spiritual danger. You now have become a danger to the cult. God bless you this morning from New South Wales, Australia. One of the most beautiful places in the world, viewers. I am so blessed. Look at those beautiful trees over there. You'll see the mountains in the background. They're the mountains of Carryong, Summersby. Very popular for motorbike riding, bushwalking. The Aboriginals lived in those mountains. I'm Aboriginal by descent. You'll see the bird life here is prolific. It's a beautiful place, so blessed. And I do not take it for granted, viewers. Now, you associate exit with corruption. This is what they're going to do to you. This is going to lead to fear. Association, it ties your association to the cult, but it ties it to the cult in distortion. Now you'll hear the dogs barking in the background. We're stirring up the spiritual realm. I'd say this every time. Now, you view outsiders, and this happens even in Christian churches. You begin to view outside. Hear the demonic realm starting to stir up the dogs in the background. It's been completely quiet here all morning. Anyway. You begin to view outsiders as unsafe by default. They're of the world, they're evil, they're this and that. And remember, the Jehovah Witnesses think all unbelievers are going to be destroyed in Armageddon. They don't even know how it works. Now, this causes separation even with people that are close to you. You begin to isolate and you become suspicious. These are the impacts of being in a cult. You confuse relational control with spiritual protection. So now it's more important to be spiritually protected than to have your relationships with people that aren't in the cult. And this causes a fusion to the cult, a mislabeling of the people that are your friends, and a replacement. You completely replace the dynamic of your social structure to what would I say? To entrench yourself socially within the cult. And this results in loyalty being maintained through fear of social and emotional loss. Remember, the cost of you challenging the cult once you're in it is so catastrophic that your loyalty to the cult is maintained through fear of social and emotional loss. Now, you hear in the background, everything's going berserk right now. Dogs, sirens, neighbours fighting. We're stirring up the spiritual realm. So just stop for a minute. A relationship that survives only through enforced agreement is not freedom. You're bound now. It is conditional attachment with catastrophic consequences if you don't comply. Now, the body experiences social threat as survival threat. Potential rejection activates stress responses because isolation feels emotionally dangerous, but you feel panic at the thought of separation from the cult. Tightness, alarm, nervous system runs at 100, and distress. You avoid honesty to maintain stability inside the cult. This is going to bring suppression, restraint. You withdraw, and psychological exhaustion. And you live divided between public loyalty and private conflict. And this causes an inattention fatigue and personal internal fragmentation. This is where this is where it's called, basically in one thing, theological abuse. And this leaves the nervous system trapped between consciousness and belonging to the cult. Now, here's a pattern clarifier. This is a social trap pattern. This is how it works. First, the organisation becomes your primary community. Then relationships become tied to the loyalty to the cult. Then disagreement threatens your connection to the cult. Then fear of loss suppresses your honesty about what you're seeing and how you're feeling to stay in the cult. Then the person protects the group, the cult, even against personal conviction. You abandon what your mind's telling you is right to stay in the cult. And so the control is no longer merely doctrinal about what's right and what's wrong in the Bible. This has gone way beyond that. This is about personal, internal, social, integrational survival. And all this apparently becomes rational. You may have stayed outwardly loyal, not because you still believe fully, but because losing your world felt and feels unbearable. So when belonging is conditional, honesty becomes dangerous. Here's a scenario. A Jehovah's Witness privately questions doctrine, but continues attending meetings and repeating organisational positions because family relationships depend on the visible loyalty to the cult. The mind calculates relational survival before intellectual honesty. Truth becomes secondary to preserving acceptance and avoiding separation. And the body carries chronic strain, tight chest, nervous anticipation, emotional exhaustion from living divided internally. So let's reflect. How much of your silence was driven by fear of losing people rather than confidence in the claims of the cult? Let's do a resistance check. You answer these yourself. Have you hidden questions to protect your cult relationships? Do you fear isolation more than inaccuracy? You'll take the inaccuracy just to be on the right side of the Jehovah Witnesses. Have you stayed externally compliant while internally conflicted? Do you associate leaving with abandonment or emotional collapse, or both? Well, let's do a root cause check. Was belonging made conditional on loyalty? Number 2, have relationships been tied to organisational compliance only? Are you protecting attachment rather than pursuing truth? Did fear of loneliness become stronger than your need to verify the reality of what's going on? In a belief system, if it's true, the belief system, if a belief system is true, why must relationships be threatened to keep people inside it? Ask yourself. So let's take some immediate action. Write down the names of the people you fear losing most. Then ask honestly, would truthful examination alone threaten these relationships? And inside the cult, I dare say they would. I'm Dr. JW Ayoub, Central Coast, New South Wales, Australia. Like and inscribe just to encourage me and inspire me. Comment to educate me, and share to help somebody else. Here's a proverb, viewers. Better is the man who walks alone in truth than the one who remains among many through silence. For false peace binds the conscience, but truth restores the soul, even through loss. In closing, viewers, if social fear continues to govern your decisions within the cult, you remain divided. You're externally compliant and internally restricted. But when truth becomes more important than conditional acceptance, the trap weakens and personal integrity begins to return. Viewers, in the next episode 22, it's entitled The Identity Fusion, when the organization became your entire self. I'm going to expose how personal identity was absorbed into organizational identity until separation felt like psychological collapse. I'm Dr. JW Ayoub. Like, share, subscribe and comment. Comment to educate me. I'll see you in the next episode. Bye for now.